Can I now please welcome to the stage Her Excellency Noor bint Ali Alkhulaif, the Minister for Sustainable Development of the Kingdom of Bahrain, and of course the Chief Executive of the EDB.
Good morning all, salam alaikum. It's great to be here. If you allow me just a couple of minutes to welcome everyone into Fintech Forward 2025. It's a pleasure to be with you all this morning. Thank you for all the support. Thank you to the sponsors, banks, and thank you for the Central Bank. Thank you for Tamkeen, Bahrain Fintech Bay, and all the team at the EDB for putting this together. I have to say that it's amazing to see what is happening and the partnerships that we're creating and we're seeing before our own eyes, because what we've done basically through this event is just to plant the seed, but to see all of the trees being planted all around it, thanks to the efforts of the people on the ground, thanks to our guests who have joined us from all around the world. I hope you feel like you're amongst friends and family, and we're really looking forward to hearing your thoughts and what you have to say over the next couple of days. Thank you also for the earlier session. It's great to set the scene. I guess my role here is to set the scene when it comes to the economy and the role of fintech in our economy. I am by no means a fintech expert, but I've enjoyed learning from all of you over the past few years. But just to go back to your question about the challenges and opportunities, and maybe here I want to mention a couple of things, or maybe look at it from two different angles. Because for sure, Bahrain GCC is not immune from global shocks, global challenges. I think that's a part of life, but it's how you respond to it. And we should be all very proud, and we are very proud in how we've managed to prove that we have this agile and resilient economy that is able to weather shocks, whether it's political, whether it's health related. And we've been able to do that because we do have a very much diversified economy where the financial services sector is the largest contributor. And when we look at the biggest change that is happening, the biggest driver of momentum at the moment, when we look at financial services, and we see it through the numbers, it's the role that fintech is playing. It's not just that. Even when I look at the numbers from an EDB point of view, in terms of the investments that we're attracting, whether it's foreign direct investments or local investments, there's a lot of interest in fintech. So having a sector that is stable, that is growing, that is addressing the needs that these challenges are bringing up really helps you in terms of the response. The other thing I want to say is, when you're faced with challenges, the best thing to do is to innovate, and you're forced to innovate. And the way we do it in Bahrain, it's an innovation that is partnered. We find that balance between being really innovative but sticking to the regulation. And we're able to do that because we have, as the point was made in the earlier session, we have a single regulator, being the Central Bank of Bahrain, that is forward-looking, that is the one leading in a lot of times in terms of the innovation, but also is the one looking at the regulation, the one looking at the impact of the innovations being done and ensuring that it's all done within a very much a regulated environment. Also, the other advantage that we have being in terms of responding to these challenges is that we are small. So we're able to deploy really quickly. You can have a nationwide deployment very easily. So maybe that's in the angle of how we responded to the challenges. But also to look at Bahrain being an environment or a country that could be a solution for other fintechs from around the world that are facing challenges. And we're able to do that because there are advantages of Bahrain, of being in the GCC. The first one being the stability. Again, there's a stability in terms of the political situation, there's a stability in terms of the regulation, there's a stability in terms of our strategies, our visions, our plans going forward. And that's what a lot of those innovative ideas need. The other thing is the cost competitiveness, Bahrain and the region versus the rest of the world. And another very important point is the human capital. So the investment that the country's done in human capital, and specifically on financial services, services, specifically on the finance and the tech side of fintech, through, of course, the support of our Labour Fund, Tim Keane, means that we have the right human capital to address the needs of not just the country, but we've proven it where we are exporting our services. Considering, what we all went through during COVID, it's proof that you do not need your staff to be with you in the office. So we do have people that are serving international companies. We do have global tech hubs being served in Bahrain, serving the globe. So we've very much managed to position ourselves as a very stable, very safe, but very much growing and innovative environment around fintech and financial services in general.
Stability, regulatory nimbleness, and a cost advantage is a pretty potent cocktail for making your financial centre buzz, I think.
I would agree.
Could we talk a little bit about, so that's how Bahrain is encouraging its fintech sector. Could we talk about the role that your financial services sector, broadly, but also the most innovative parts of it, fintech, are playing in Bahrain's economic development? It's part of your drive for sustainability. It's part of your drive to kind of diversify the economy. Could you just talk a little bit about how that's...
Absolutely. And I know a lot of the Bahrainis in the room would know about this, but for those that do not, we talk about diversification, and we're blessed to have had a journey of reform when it comes to diversification. This has started a really long time ago. We've introduced new sectors, we've supported in new sectors. So if we just look at the economy today, the largest contributor to our economy is financial services. It's an economy that is 85% non-oil. No sector is larger than 20% in that pie chart. So you have financial services, we've got oil and gas, of course, in there. We've got manufacturing, a really strong tourism sector, a strong logistics sector, a strong trade sector. We've got education and healthcare all in the mix. When you look at also our latest figures, and we've just announced a couple of days ago our growth figures for the country, GDP grew 2.5% overall. Non-oil sectors grew 3.5% in the second quarter compared to the second quarter last year. Keeping in mind, actually, and going back to the challenges point, keeping in mind that the second quarter was not the most stable when it comes to conflicts in the region. So for the country to be able to grow despite all of that says a lot. Of course, in terms of the financial services, we do have a strategy that's been put in place a few years back. It really looks at what are the sectors that I need to grow, what are the needs of the economy today that I need to start investing in. Actually, what are the needs in 5 years' time that I need to start investing in today? And that's very much the motto that we go by.
3.5%. I come from an economy where where we would rather have liked that. But part of what you're doing to encourage this growth involves a lot of collaboration, and I mean that on kind of a lot of different dimensions. Obviously, you've got collaboration between the government and the private sector. You're encouraging kind of collaborations between lots of private sector institutions to happen here, and also obviously with other regulators, kind of trying to make the whole patchwork work. What's your approach to that been? It's a phenomenally complicated task.
Look, it might be on a global level, but for us in Bahrain, this is what we know, how we know how to do business and how to live. Again, it's a small country. Everyone has to come together, and we've always come together. The Team Bahrain motto is something we live by, and you just have to look around. You just have to go outside, and you look at the collaboration between the different sectors. So it's always this whole of society approach when it comes to our partnerships. And maybe it's worth just giving a few examples here. I mean, if you look at the Central Bank of Bahrain, what do you call it? The regulation that they have, or the sandbox that they have. Sorry, the sandbox is all about how do I, as a regulator, partner with the startups and the new ideas and learn from them, but also guide them. And that's one form of partnership that we have between the regulator and the private sector. But also there's plenty of examples where you have the private sector, whether it's just Bahrain or international, coming in together in a partnership form. Bahrain Fintech Bay is started also as that kind of collaboration between Central Bank of Bahrain, the EDB, and the banks in order to have an environment where startups and fintechs thrive. We have also BAB, the Bahrain Association of Bankers. That's all the banks coming together and really working together and collaborating and better planning for the future. But also there's other forms of partnerships that we can talk about. One maybe that is important for me also personally is where you see collaborations between, say, the Supreme Council for Women on programs for women and other banks like Standard Chartered Bahrain and other banks as well. So for us, that collaboration is important. We also like to bring in international companies. Collaboration for us is important. Partnership is important for that sustainability. So even the role that international companies play in, and actually also to a point that was mentioned earlier, is what you see that the partnerships happening not just in financial institutions, but when you see the telcos coming on board and creating those partnerships. And then in the future, you're seeing retail as well coming in and being part of that partnership. This is a great thing to see.
Something people need in order to do that collaboration is talent. And globally, this is one of the hottest topics, like basically whoever you speak to, whether it's a growing kind of private sector organization, whether it's a kind of incumbent traditional financial institution, every government that you talk to is kind of furious about the competition for talent.
Yeah.
How have you looked at that here?
We always look at it, and it's not unique to financial services. We look at it across the board. Our human capital, we're always going to say it, is the greatest asset, again, for a small country. This is how we've managed to put Bahrain on the map. It's through the people and what they've done across the different sectors. Of course, a lot of things are changing quite rapidly. Things have been changing quite rapidly. So this is not a new thing in terms of fintech. Maybe, and I know we were talking about that earlier, but maybe it used to be a disruption. It's now not. It's a norm. It's part of life. So that planning is started a long time ago, and we work very closely. Actually, we work and we sit and we have working teams and we have groups. Whether it's us government sitting with the Central Bank of Bahrain, sitting with Temkeen as EDB, as Prime Minister's office, bringing in the banks and saying, if we do nothing today, how does our labor market look like? And then if I start to plan for the future, thinking, where do I want to be in terms of the economy? What does that economy need in terms of that human capital? And then just looking at all of those gaps and saying, let's put a plan for each of these. And very important in that conversation is bringing in the academia as well. So again, that's bringing in another element that is very important in terms of the human capital development, but also bringing in all the training institutions, bringing in the private sector companies, and we work with them. So when we have specifically even like international companies, when they come in, we say we want to take advantage of the human capital development of your training programs. Let's design a program. Let that be part of any investment that happens in Bahrain. And we've just come back actually from California. We were in LA and San Francisco. And you see, it's the moment you talk about the education element. And once we show them how Bahrain cares and invests in education, you can see that everyone then is willing to participate. It's that impact investment, it's that sustainability, it's giving back to the economy. So we're very, it's a long road. There's a lot of work to be done in terms of getting the human capital right. But with everyone working together, at least we have clarity as to what needs to be done.
When things are changing so quickly, when the sector itself is changing so quickly, as is its labor force, how do you think about balancing the risk of not innovating fast enough and therefore not growing quickly enough with the risk that rapid growth sparks instability? How do you balance those up?
Look, it's about being aware. It's also where you want the innovation to address real life's problems. So once you've identified a real life problem, you want that innovation to be rapid. And that is something that we work on and we identify and we work with them. But it's also having a really strong regulator that monitors what is happening. And there is regular sessions that happen with that. And the central bank is always bringing in the banks together. We have also institutions like BAB that will bring it together to monitor what is happening in the sector. So it's all about ensuring that you have a regulation, that you're monitoring what's happening. Again, I'll go back to the point about it being a really small country. the advantage that we have is that you always have an idea of what is happening all across. But also it's about seeing what's happening in the region. And I think it's just having a region that has a lot of synergies, that has a lot of common interest, a lot of common plans, also makes this cross-border sharing of knowledge and information very helpful. And this is what we're seeing.
Where have you, in thinking about kind of sharing cross-border knowledge, obviously one of the ways that you can build a sector like this is to look to kind of international examples, see like what has worked elsewhere, what hasn't worked so well, what do we want to imitate, what do we want to kind of guard against? Are there any kind of particular lessons you've learned from looking at any other financial centers?
Look, it's very interesting what is happening. And again, coming back from the West Coast and entering that bubble of innovation and coming back, there is a lot that could work. But also there is now an understanding even there that there is that hyper-personalization of solutions that we require. People want solutions that address their need, and people want really instant solutions because we're used to doing things really quickly. So even when it comes to fintech and financial services and the solutions that we have, they have to be really quick and they have to address the needs. So it's interesting actually seeing how even those innovators and those producers of technology are now starting to look into what the public and what the consumer needs when it comes to it. And anything that addresses issues that happen to people, it's going to be of interest to people and it's going to have that adoption.
Absolutely. Yeah. So our event is called Fintech Forward.
Yes.
We're thinking about what the next few years look like, in particular for Bahrain's fintech sector. Yeah. What if you kind of cast your gaze forward, you think about the next 1, 3, 5 years, what are the things that you want to happen that you'll regard as kind of success? We really made this sector thrive. We made it become like a really productive part of our economy.
Look, I'm going to fall back on our sector strategy for financial services, which laid out the key sectors or the key subsectors or areas of focus over the coming years. And just examples of that is really to continue focusing on digitization. And the central bank and the country has done quite a lot with the support of the banks in terms of the push towards digitization. The other thing is growing the insurance sector. That's very important. Continuing to grow the fintech sector is important. But also on the other side is continuing to push on the human capital, looking at the cybersecurity. And for me, maybe personally, and something maybe I should have started with at the start, but also when you really look at financial inclusion and how we drive more of the financial inclusion, more of the ESG work that is done. And our larger financial institutions have done a great job when it comes to ESG, when it comes to sustainability. It's how do I see that translated into the rest of the sector? But I'm sure and I'm confident that over the next few years, we will see a lot of that happening thanks to the acceleration and the support and the solutions that are identified by the financial services and the fintechs. But also ask me that question in 2 days' time. We might have a different answer thanks to these guys here.
Yeah, that's what we're hoping for a lot more ideas.
They will answer that question.
Your Excellency, thank you so much. It's an exciting time. Thank you for
Thank you so much.
Us.
Thank you all. Enjoy the next 2 days.
Thank you.